The story you want to see will begin in a few seconds, but I'd like to remind you that we're part of public broadcasting. We don't sell commercials, we don't have sponsors. We rely on people like you for support, people who care about educational opportunity. And right now, I'd like to give you an opportunity to help us. You can make a tax-deductible contribution by visiting our website, learningmatters.tv/donate. Thanks for your support, and here's that video. When Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, its waters washed away many of New Orleans' schools, and with them, a school system burdened by years of academic failure, mismanagement, and corruption. The state seized control of most of the city's schools. The federal government sent millions in disaster relief funds. In New Orleans, it was a rare chance to build a new school system from the ground up. For Paul Vallas, the veteran superintendent Louisiana hired in 2007 to do the job, the pressure was on.
We need to move now. We need to start building buildings now. We need to modernize those classrooms now. We can't tell
Almost from the time he arrived in New Orleans, Paul Vallas began making promises, talking publicly about all the big changes he intended to make in the schools. Well, it's been 3 years. Time for Paul Vallas's report card.
I give Paul very high marks.
State Superintendent Paul Pastorek hired Vallas.
If you would tell people 5 years ago what's happening today, no one would have believed it was possible.
We went up in every grade, in every subject, and we outperformed everyone else in growth. Congratulations!
Every year Paul Vallas has been in New Orleans, test scores have improved. Although the city continues to score far below students statewide, the gains are among the highest in Louisiana. Vallas credits a host of innovations, including new school buildings, curriculum and technology.
We're going to make a PowerPoint presentation.
An extended school day and year, and hundreds of young, idealistic teachers recruited from the nation's top colleges.
If we've got 4 exact copies, Courtney, what do you think that is? Mitosis or meiosis?
The vast majority of schools have improved, and a large number of schools have shown significant improvement. I think we've had a lot of success. We've really created a model district.
Is Walter here today?
No. Not all of Vallas's reforms have been successful.
Kevin, where's Kevin? Back.
Despite a new truancy task force, attendance in many classes remains low.
This is physical science, and I have 26 students on my roster, but on any given day I can expect about 17.
A jobs program promised to high school juniors and seniors reached a fraction of students. And after-school courses to help students catch up and graduate on time have struggled to fill seats.
All right, yesterday you had to make 4 observations about 4 different organisms that you saw in and around the garden.
Another criticism. Many of Vallas's new teachers have come through programs like Teach for America, which requires only a 2-year commitment. Critics contend that 2 years is not long enough to have a lasting impact.
A specific kind of insight?
Turnover doesn't bother me at all. I submit to you that the part of the problem in education is there's not enough turnover. I'm very comfortable running a district where half of my teachers are the university elites and the college elites from programs like Teach for America, and the other half of my teachers are veteran teachers. I think that's a very healthy balance.
But the largest and most controversial of Vallas's changes is his embrace of charter schools, which, although publicly funded, have limited government oversight. Under Vallas's leadership, charters have exploded. Before Katrina, just 2% of New Orleans schools were charters. By next year, 2/3 will be. No other school system in the country has tried charter schools on this scale.
Well, I'm a believer in schools having the freedom and autonomy to make decisions that are in the best interests of the children. And so I support charter schools because charter schools are a vehicle for achieving that type of freedom.
At charter schools like Sophie B. Wright, the principal calls the shots.
I make sure instruction is in place and it's effective and it's aligned with the state standards. I make sure that the budget is balanced and that we have money for payroll. I make sure that the kids feel safe, that all programs are running effectively.
One of Principal Sharon Clark's first decisions was to separate students by gender. Last year, with the support of parents, she made another change. The last time we sat in, you were talking about adding a 9th grade.
Yes, because we're a charter, we have that option to change our grade configuration based on our community input. And as a result, we're a high school.
Sophie B. Wright welcomed its first 9th graders last fall.
Look up here.
Nationally, charter schools have proven to be a mixed bag. Some show better results on state tests than traditional schools, and some don't. In New Orleans, charter schools have scored significantly higher. Vallas says that's because their survival depends upon it.
Schools know that if they're not performing well academically and if they're not attracting enough kids, they're going to be closely consolidated.
Have you seen any downsides to charter?
No, not at all. No.
But former New Orleans charter leader Brian Reidlinger says he has.
The problem that I have is that it's taking an entrepreneurial view of schools, when schools are really not an entrepreneurial business.
Reidlinger believes that New Orleans charter schools need more oversight than the state review conducted once every 3 years.
If you have a bunch of individual city-states, I'm going to do what works best for my city-state. And so will this one, and so will this one. And the weaker city-states, or the people who aren't in city-states, can get really slammed. And I'll give you a good example. Are you taking every special ed kid who walks into your door?
Charter schools, like all public schools, are not allowed to deny admission to any students. But the numbers suggest that some of Vallas's charters may be turning away students with special needs. In Vallas's traditional schools, 12.4% of students are enrolled in special education, compared to 8.7% in his charters.
As more of our schools convert to charters, and as more of our schools are granted charter-like independence, we're going to be doing more policing. We're going to focus more on accountability. If you are deliberately discouraging people or turning people away, that would be breach of contract. You could lose your charter.
All right, let's look at the reading challenge.
The teachers' union has another concern. Just 6% of teachers in charter schools have joined the union.
I guess I just don't see the benefit of it now.
Joy Askin, a teacher at Sophie B. Wright, was a member of the union before Katrina when she was teaching at a traditional school.
Before, when we were under Orleans Parish, it might be a large group of teachers that had the same concern. And we could go to the union and then we'd have that large voice. Well, now with us in different little pockets and we have different concerns, might have only 3 teachers here who don't want to do the program. So, there's really no need for the union per se like we needed it before.
But Teachers Union President Larry Carter says teachers need union protections.
A contract, it only helps to make a school work or run more efficiently and effectively, not just having, little kingdoms where individual persons feel that they can treat employees or even students any way they want to.
The union hasn't had a contract with the district since the state takeover, and Vallas would like to keep it that way, essentially saying to the teachers of New Orleans, trust me.
What I've tried to do is create a dynamic where you really don't need a collective bargaining agreement. We've really worked to develop a set of rules that take the wind out of the sail of those out there who say we need a contract, we need an ironclad contract with the Recovery School District to protect our members.
Vallas has had an incentive to maintain the status quo. Without a union contract, he's been able to lay the groundwork for his charter school system very quickly. But what the schools will look like moving forward is unclear.
It's a very entrepreneurial environment with public education in New Orleans, and that's fairly unheard of in our country. The challenge is that there's very little institutional structure to hold it together. How we do that will determine whether it's really going to be sustainable.
Next year, New Orleans public schools will have to weather 2 big changes: the end of federal funds meant to support schools after Katrina, and the end of Paul Vallas's tenure in New Orleans. He's already begun a new project, rebuilding earthquake-damaged schools in Haiti.
I'll be definitely transitioning out next year. What that means, how quickly, that's yet to be determined.
But even after he leaves, Vallas is confident his makeover of the city's schools and school system will remain.
You can't turn them back. The charters are authorized by the state. The state would have to not renew them. The great thing about this system is it's really going to be hard to dismantle what's been created.
1, 2, 3. I pledge.
Paul Vallas's ultimate legacy won't be apparent for some time. In the not-too-distant future, the state will turn over the schools to the old Orleans Parish School Board. What it will do with a district that's almost entirely charter schools is an open question.